Okay, good morning, good day, good day, good day. I hope you all can hear me this morning. I would like to welcome everybody to come on in and join the chat. I hope everyone is doing great this morning, this Sunday morning. Where I am, the weather's a little bit overcast. It's a little bit warm though, so we're not complaining too much. Guys, I looked here and I was like, wow, look at this. Some of the super chatties and super squatties are already stopping by. Thank you guys so much. You just don't know what it means to me to know that at least someone out there might be listening in. I appreciate it. I am still working very, very hard to learn some of the techniques and processes here on YouTube. I'm new to it, but I'm also not putting in probably the maximum effort that I need to. So I've got to do a little bit more work, but at the moment, I'm still having fun. Okay. So look, I got coffee up on the screen. So get yourselves together. Welcome again to All for Success. For anyone who hasn't been in or around this space, this is a Sussex-friendly environment, Sussex-friendly space. In general, I do not try to be a basher of anyone in particular, but I do point out the things that I see and as I understand some of the weirdness that might be happening in and around the Sussex family. Things that irritate me. So, that being said, I also come at everything from the point of view of a mother of adult children. When I see Harry and Meghan, I actually feel that type of affinity for them because I'm in the age range of Meghan's mother, Miss Doria, and definitely was in the age range of the late Princess Diana. So I could see myself stepping in that role, observing as a parent. And that's key to how I see what may be happening in and around them. Give me one moment here. I'm doing like a headphone check. I seem to be having some sort of fun, annoying, technical things going on in and around me. But along with that, I'll still try to keep myself on pace. I promise not to keep you all here all day. So if you've got your coffee ready, you're good. If you're going to sit and just listen. For those of you who are getting ready to head out to church this morning, you better get moving. And you can listen to me a little bit while you're on your way. And then lastly, of course, I always like to point out and give you the opportunity to encourage each other to do any type of exercise or workout plan. So if you're out walking, biking, or just kind of enjoying the outdoors this morning, doing a little bit of exercise, whether it's stretching, Pilates, yoga, let us know in the chat how you're doing, how that's working out for you, because it's a wonderful thing to encourage each other to try to stay as fit as possible. I always let you know that I have included, along with my bike rides, now that the weather's getting back nicely back, I also like to include doing a little bit more what they call strength training. I was told that for someone my age, it's best to do a few push-ups, lift a few weights, and try to add that to my workout plan. So I'm doing that a little bit, and I've got to improve more. So I hope all of you would enjoy joining in on that journey for me. Who knows, maybe one of these days I'll actually do an exercise video. Wouldn't that be fun? And then you all can watch and join in. That would be intense. So if you're out and about and exercising, feel free to get out there and enjoy that. Thank you all. It's just too funny to think about. So let's do this really quickly. Let's say good morning to those who've already jumped in here, just to make sure you know that I know that you know that I know I'm here. Look at this. Good morning, Connie Balmer. It is wonderful to see a super chatty here in the chat. Thank you for stopping by. I know that you guys are super, super busy and that you have to definitely get yourselves together and do all the things that you all do and work with all the people who are working in YouTube chat space. I think it's phenomenal that you all can actually spend time to join in these chats. Thank you so much. Keen for Concepts says hello also to Connie Palmer. Thank you so much, Keen for Concepts, for being here. Glad you got jumped in here this morning. And look who else is here this morning. We have Joyce Anderson in the house. Good Sunday morning to you. All right, and good Sunday morning back to you. Oh, she says, I'm honored to be here. The honor, my dear, is all mine. Please be advised. It is wonderful that you guys can stop by. You know, just the fact that you have some time to spare, it's amazing. So what we're going to do today, of course, this, like I said, I'm not going to hang into this chat too long because I wanted you all to know. I don't know if I tried to upload a video yesterday of my initial planting. I just kind of had a clip of myself putting some of the plants down. I planted cauliflower and I planted broccoli so far. So I wanted to go back and note that, in Megan's Netflix special, or I'm sorry, Netflix show about cooking and growing food, what they call garden to table type of design, I decided, well, let me get started on my spring gardening. I've done a little bit in the past, not so much, but I wanted to kind of let people know that I am starting that again. So we'll see how the cauliflower and the broccoli do. And I think we're going to put down a few more things. We're working on it. So I encourage all of you, if you're into that, even if you just grow something like a pot of mint or a few herbs, just to get started. It is really quite lovely to do that just to see if you can get what I call that habit going. And it is amazing. If you get started, you'll find that you don't want to stop. So we're going to keep that going. So Megan's show reminded me that planting time is now. So get it in the ground for the early season. So we're going to keep that moving. Now, I had mentioned before that in the standard way of tabloid media, the desire to continue the divide and conquer mentality. And so the Gwyneth Paltrow, Meghan Markle feud that is supposed to be going on, I loved the way they both responded to make it extremely well known that that feud is manufactured. So it's going to become more and more difficult for all of these lies to stick. And here is also a part of this machine of hatred that is still out there. I want to say this to all of us so that we get comfortable understanding this. And it is really one of those things that we don't like to hear. But this, what I call delegation of hatred, this machine of distortion, the actual splintering in our social world or structure of one group of people being pitted against another group of people, and the constant conflict. If you're anything like me, you probably ask yourself on a daily basis, why do people do these things? Why would someone be so angry, so mean? Why can't they just leave other people alone? The sad and truthful response to that is, as long as we live and breathe, this battle must go on. This battle cannot stop. And it is truly like a devastating realization when you understand that this will never stop. It's truly sad, but this family will be fighting all the time, forever. And when it comes to these constant attacks, whether it's an attack on their person or whether it's an attack around them, that they have been set in this current scenario, that this will never end. And I know it's very difficult for many to come to that realization. I may or may not be doing this YouTube channel forever, right? I don't know if I'll do this, for example, for 20 years, but I could possibly try. But I guarantee you that for that entire time period, conflict will be manufactured, hatred will be directed forever. It's a monstrous reality that we live in. And it is the same, not just for Harry and Meghan, it is the same even in our day-to-day existence. That you will constantly be under attack in a way from outside forces to create conflict, chaos, and disruptions in your life. It's a truth that we do not enjoy telling ourselves and telling each other. But with that in mind, here's the wonderful bright side. The bright side is, depending on how you operate in the world, what you believe in the world, the beautiful bright side is that when you try to move through this world doing no harm to other people, of course, except if it is necessary to protect yourself, that in general, things begin to align for you properly. Things begin to gather together for you positively. It may take time, but in general, the response to the universe you create around you is going to be positive. And that is what we see generally happening around the Sussex family. They're having trials, they're having things to deal with, and conflicts are constantly coming. But because they apparently and seemingly continue to try to do the best they can for all involved, it appears that in and around them, good people are coming, good things are happening, and they get to celebrate the wins. And I tell you, I am on board for wanting to see more of that. I want to see the wins. So we have to keep in mind that the struggle is real, but if we try to struggle positively, we may build around us a world and a universe that will support us in that beautiful world we're trying to create. So that is the divide attempt between Gwyneth Paltrow and Meghan Markle. Now, of course, Martha Stewart is in the background because they also like to do that, pit her against Martha Stewart. Of course, that's less likely to work, and that is because There is no comparison. Martha Stewart is the origin of all things homemaking and has been that for more than 50 years. So we don't have to try and compete with that. And it was wonderful that Megan specifically stated how much she loves and honors Martha Stewart. So that is a good thing. So if there was a battle, they couldn't really try to create. But I'm sure if they're given the opportunity, they will. So here's the topic of this week. And I believe, sadly, this is going to last some time. This one is going to grow. I do not know how it will be resolved, but this particular topic, and I'm sure many of you are hearing chats about it and watching some of the news feeds, and you're hearing a lot of chatter about this. It is in reference to the wonderful charity Sentebale. Sentebale is that number one or main charity that Harry and I say Prince Harry and Prince Seeiso of Lesotho put together when they were young, and they wanted to do something positive in support of the children in that area that were battling HIV and AIDS. And so these two young men at the time came up with this idea, why don't to do this charity, gather some money and try to help take care of some of these children, their medical needs and things like that. Wonderful charity, wonderful thing to do. And at the time, of course, Harry and Prince Seeiso, they were young men. And so in a sense, here's a possibility for this charity overall, is that the royal firm, perhaps the UK guardians of that day, worked with them and helped them create this charity and build it up, in a sense, giving these two young men something to do and to feel productive, right? Because you have to always remember that the origin of a lot of things that that Harry may have been a part of, perhaps begrudgingly, he was assisted by the royal firm at that time, right? Whether they approved of it or thought it was wonderful, or whether it was simply that the Queen at that time, Queen Elizabeth, simply pointed to someone and said, help Harry do this, right? Because if you think about it, that is possibly how everything that he was actually working with came into fruition. It's because you have to remember the royal family, they have an extraordinary reach and an extraordinary depth. So even if he were a part of something, or if he was the lead in a particular area, it's very possible that the actual start of it and getting it off the ground were simply people who were in and around him as a royal at the time. And they may have been simply given a directive, hey, help Harry get this going. Help Harry get this working. Now, of course, as Harry continued to grow up, he probably took on more responsibilities and worked more closely with these charities and understanding how things are done, what methods they use, tactics and things of that nature. But what he may not have had a strong sense of, he may not have had a strong sense of who actually may have been working in the administrative functions of those charities. He may not have had the deep details of how that actual charity was functioning when he wasn't looking at it. I don't know if you understand where I'm going with this. Do you guys follow what I'm getting at when it comes to both Sentebale and Invictus? You see, because these things, even though he's the founder, he's the face, he's the reason for that particular activity, there is a possibility in each case, or basically in all cases, that the personnel who made that engine run could have simply been appointed by the royal firm or a member of the royal household, right? Which is why they have such a sense of ownership in everything that he does. Why they have such a sense of, we control everything you do, right? You don't know at any given moment who may have been pinpointed to help get these structures off the ground, right? So in this Sentebale situation, and I'm gonna, of course, I know, like I said, everyone is listening to all the details that are coming out moment by moment, day by day. For those who may not be aware, there is a current CEO, or rather volunteer of the board, who is the person who conducts the entire board. And her name is Dr. Chamunda, I believe is how it's pronounced. Or Chadumunda, something like that. So this individual, over the past couple of years, I believe they said the conflicts seemed to arise somewhere around 2023. They seemingly began to see more conflicts arising, as she has spoken about the fact, her point of view is she wanted to see Sentebale move in a broader direction. Remember, the main focus of Sentebale was HIV and AIDS, helping the children. She comes on board, and her mentality was it needed to broaden, because HIV AIDS is not so much a death sentence as it used to be. She wanted to broaden the field to basically health, wealth, and the environment, which on the surface, I can't see anyone particularly being against that idea. But what it did, it created a conflict among those who were already sitting on the board, the idea people who have been working with Harry probably since he founded the organization. Many of those folks sitting and working with him have been there for many years. So then this doctor comes on board and wants to take the charity in a new, different direction. And someone wrote an article, and it's an interesting comment in the article, that she wanted to bring the focus for the charity back to the continent, rather than making the actual charity fundraising appear to be European and Western. This is the kind of the backstory for what her conflict with the people who are on the board. Now, that is her outward story, right? Now, what's happening in the news in the background is that there seems to be this backstory of, wait a minute, how is the money being handled? You had a fundraising effort for an organization that generally would raise maybe $500,000 or $1 million a year at these charity functions of polo. and things of that nature. But now all of a sudden, polo is not supposed to be the focus. The wealthy friends coming to these events, doing the fundraising, that's no longer supposed to be the focus. But at the same time, the comment she made was interesting. In the interview, she made a comment that once Harry walked away from the royal family, that the funding seemed to diminish. This is her statement, right? Now, we all who are outside of them, we watched these polo players go to Japan and raise over $1 million. We saw that. We saw sponsors putting money into Sentebale because they were betting on their teams, right? We saw them play in Miami, having a great time, and some of the things being done in and around, and the money that they raised. But now her commentary on the interview is that once he left the royal family, the donations began to diminish. Many people were walking away from supporting Sentebale, right? Then she continued with commentary about that being a possibility, but at the same time, she's trying to get a broader focus. And then here's another underlying piece of the story that I'm sure people are watching. At some point in this discussion of people are walking away, support might be diminishing, she then hires a consultant firm to perhaps assist with fundraising and support. However, the cost of this was going to be more than $500,000, somewhere about $600,000. So this kind of attitude, this interaction, this stuff raises a red flag. But in the meantime, when she's sitting on these UK tabloids, media, she is trying to really turn the conversation to every single accusation that is made in and around not just Harry, but I want to point out the Harry and Meghan tropes. She trots out the Harry and Meghan tropes to support what she claims she went through, right? She is now insinuating also that they were being encouraged to give good PR to Meghan, right? For example, if Harry had said, well, maybe if you made a comment about this or that, or if you didn't say something negative this way or that way, that would be better received. And a lot of it stemmed, and I know you all have seen the clip, a lot of it stemmed from that one moment when she was on that podium and they were going to pass the trophy, and Meghan is standing there hugging the Harry, but she is trying to move herself and reposition herself either between the players or passing the trophy herself. Something like it was a really bizarre look. And so she made reference to that particular incident as no one knew Meghan and her celebrity friends were going to come to this event. No one told them they were coming. So therefore, the choreography on the stage was messed up. I don't know if you all heard this interview. It was really very bizarre. And it was also bizarre that the UK tabloid media put it on their news feeds the way they did. But that's okay. We never expect better from them. We don't. We know that they misbehave a lot. But this is what is becoming of Prince Harry and Prince Seiso's legacy in this particular event. Their legacy is being meddled with. And here's the thing. One of her interesting comments was that Sentebale, the workers, the 540 personnel or so that work with Sentebale, they're doing the work. They're the ones doing the work on the ground. And basically, Prince Harry was just the face and he really wasn't there. So he really wasn't there. He's just the face. However, at the same time, she's supposed to be bullied by him. He's misogynistic. And he's also anti-black to a degree. All that's happening at the same time, she says, he only came there once 5 years ago, and then again maybe in October. So all this, I don't know where this bullying and all of that is happening, but that's what's going on. So there's going to be a lot of fallout here, people. We're going to be standing by and waiting for this crazy fallout. At least this is my take on the situation. I'm sure some of you probably have far more in-depth information. You probably have some far more intriguing information. But, I mean, Prince Seiso and Prince Harry have been working with this institution for quite a while. So it is interesting to me that this character comes along and is able to insert themselves into a role that is essentially voluntary, but is able in this way to disrupt the entire organization to the point where those who are on the board, the trustees, the people that help get a lot of the things done, make the phone calls, call in favors, all of these people have walked away. And then the final part is that Prince Seiso and Prince Harry himself have said, okay, we'll step away from the fundraising and we'll step away from the organization ourselves. Now, I mean, imagine that. But here's what this reminds me of. I don't know if, depending on what church you guys maybe attend, if you do attend local churches. But when I was a young person growing up, by the way, I went to a Baptist church. But often you would hear stories, especially in the Baptist church world, where a new, let's say, pastor might come on board to a church, and perhaps many people in the church did not get along with the new pastor, or perhaps they didn't appreciate the way this new pastor did things. And there would actually, a conflict would arise, and people would be at odds. And sometimes many churches back in the old days, they would actually get to a point where there was such conflict that they would put a padlock on the church doors, which would prevent either the pastor going into the church and anyone else going into the church for any type of service or services. Now, this was a common thing mentioned in our history. I don't, I know you guys are probably saying, what? But you would not believe that these type of things occurred. And today they still do. Pastors and leaders in various churches will come on board, and there are people who will be in that congregation or membership, whether they are trustees or the deacons or other members will come about, that will create an extreme conflict among the members. And before you know it, you wouldn't believe it's possible, but before you know it, an actual pastor of the church, someone who may have been a leader in that organization for maybe 10, 20 years, is somehow pushed out. So it does happen. And of course, we see that in the corporate world, in business. Businesses are often bought out or taken over. But it's an insidious method of operation, because what happens is the individual is actually undoing all the work that someone else has done. And they've taken on, for example, the name of this charity is Sentebale, known for being Sentebale, Prince Harry's charity. And you have gotten this thing in a position where the actual founder is saying, I'm stepping away. Imagine that. Now, I have a small clip of her being interviewed here by Ian, who is another wonderful MBE winner, very close. He's not exactly a royalist, but he's definitely not a royalist, okay? But this is just a quick snippet. I hope this plays. And if you get a chance to check this Sky News interview, this is one of the first ones. And just, it's interesting what she is saying. So this,
which is one of the ways in which Sentebale raised a lot of money. What happened?
We were so fortunate to have the opportunity to do a polo challenge in Miami last year in April. We had a very generous family that was happy for us to use their polo grounds at a material discount. And then about a month before the event was about to take place, Prince Harry called the team and said, I'm doing a Netflix show, and I would love to bring a camera crew so that I can include some footage in this show. And so the team called me and tell me, oh, Prince Harry's made this request, so we're doing the things. I said, you can't be doing the things without seeking consent from the property owners, the sponsors, all the guests. Nobody signed up into being on a Netflix show. And so we have this discussion about the need to talk to everybody. We come up with draft agreements. And of course, the venue owner.
Which is...
okay. So there's an example of what she is indicating was a conflict, you see? So basically, this implication is that Prince Harry is just throwing things out there at them and trying to make them do things as Sentebale that Sentebale is not prepared to do, or it's not their function to be doing that particular thing. Twisting Sentebale into a configuration that it's not supposed to be in. So you get where she's going with this? And I must say, it's an interesting method of delivery that she has throughout this interview, right? And the fact that they allow her to just simply paint this picture, it's really extraordinary. So I tell you, what I believe is that perhaps Prince Harry and the board, they realized that they have been maybe duped. Like the carpet was definitely pulled out from underneath them, and they got caught off guard. They didn't realize probably the level of crookedness in and among them, right? But I have a feeling, my hunch is that a lot of this that's going to be pointed out, I bet much of it is going to come down to trying to manipulate the money. Now, the question will be, who is she trying to manipulate the money for? And I think now that they've pointed out the gentleman who was quickly appointed to take over, Ian, who was a member of another board and charity of Prince William's, I think it's going to be very clear that, as with all things, they have just been slowly picking things apart and waiting for the opportunity to pounce, to see what they can do to upend any work that Harry might be performing. At least that is what it looks like. Sad. Totally sad, and makes me very angry. So just for a second, let me see who else has jumped in the chat while I take a moment to calm my nerves, because that makes me so mad. So let's see who we have. I'm not sure if I'm going to say this right. Kawaii Push. Okay, this is a lot. Kawaii Push. Let's see. You're making this hard for me. Here in love. Okay, I love it. Says hello, Sussex Squad. Well, thank you so much for being here. I love your tagline. That's really neat. So I have to pay attention to how that is spelled out. Thank you so much for being here. Also, LL, we would say thank you so much for listening in, and good morning to you. I appreciate it that you're here today. Let's see who this is. Also, Mary Mann. Good morning, good morning. They say hello, squatties. And also wanted to note that Sophie, okay, Chewbacca, great. You know what? You need to stop it with the Star Wars references. You should be ashamed of yourself. And yeah, I have to join in with your nerves being torn up. I'm not appreciative of this at all. It is amazing. Amazing. So again, Kawaii Push and Love says, how dare this woman try to make our Duke look bad? What is wrong with this hateful woman? I don't know. I really don't. I really do not know, except possible money troubles. Possible money troubles. And the UK royals, yes, they continue to send people to upend. Maryman, you are right on it. You are right on it. And you are correct that this charity is not just Prince Harry's. There were quite a few people involved in this. Quite a few. And whether or not there is any truth behind her, JC, thank you. Good morning for being here. Good morning and thank you. I'm going to have to definitely leave the door open for this possibility that, yeah, she is definitely lying here. Or something of the subterfuge is happening underneath. Chewbacca keeps digging a deeper hole. Yeah, something is off. Something is off. But I think there's also a danger that this particular movement could expose other people. So Sophie missed the message that the abuse and smearing is reserved for Meghan, but she'll get her wake-up call, when they rally behind Prince Harry. I believe the mistake of not only that, yes, indeed, Merriman, but I think also the great possibility of all these people who are going to be now affected if this charity doesn't hold, right? Sophie decolonizing by appointing more colonizing associates of Williams. Exactly. Her comment about decolonizing the structure of how the charity operated, as if there were going to be all of these people from the continent jumping in and ready to donate in its stead. I mean, if they were really interested in being a part of they would have been in the early days. So we're like, who is she talking about? It's really her whole storyline is quite interesting, but it is definitely right down the line as if it were pulled headlines from the UK tabloid media, right? That Harry is misogynistic, belligerent, and he wants to just do whatever he wants to do, and he doesn't have any regard for what other people want. That he thinks he can just tell them what to do. And then she pulls from the line of what she thinks Meghan, how Meghan would have intersected by needing good PR. You know, why would Meghan need good PR from Sentebale? She had nothing to do with Sentebale, right? Like, why would Meghan need good PR from someone who is an unknown? That's great. It was ridiculous, right? But she probably has taken, like many of these sociopathic people do, they may take a snippet from a sentence that someone may say, and they will take that snippet and grow it into some other conversation. And that may have been the danger of having this woman in and around all of her celebrity friends when they actually had that charity event, right? Because every conversation, every comment, she is listening in and waiting to see, how can I use this to empower my game plan? And that is what these people do. They are monsters at this work. So anyway, that is definitely something we are going to be watching over the next few days and weeks probably. But in the meantime, right? In the meantime, keep moving forward with Meghan Markle, her cooking, her cookware, all of the fun that she is having getting her work off the ground, because it is absolutely within reach for Harry to develop another charity if he wishes to help and assist the same children and to work in and around some of those same facilities if he wants to. Or he can just simply step away and start a charity of something completely different, because this is their loss, right? And you have something functioning for more than, what, 15, 20 years? And then all of a sudden a newcomer comes in and everything is wrong with it? Amazing. But we're going to stay, as with Meghan, right? Be unfazed by these critics. But they will still have to remain in battle. They will definitely have to remain all the time with their eyes and ears open, especially against those who will try to taint and besmirch everything they do. Horror stories. So what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to cheer, and hopefully we'll get to see more of the polo competitions and the fundraisers. I truly enjoyed it. Plus, it gives the folks who play an opportunity to play, and we see that they love what they do. But she definitely has to watch her footing, because it was amazing how she threw a monkey wrench in this entire process. What I would like to see, if they have an opportunity, I would love for them to give young newcomers who are new to the sport, an opportunity to play as a fundraiser. Now that would be nice, to expose some of these young kids who are coming up in this particular sport. That would be fun to watch. So what we're going to do, folks, we're going to cross our fingers and we're going to hope that this works itself out, because I love seeing the victories that they have, especially when they do wonderful things for children in and around these charities. Yes. All right. All right. Well, we're coming almost to the close, to the closing end. Guys, I've kept you here for too long, right? So let me do this. Let me tell you, I always like to tell you guys, um, I have all of these effects in when I'm about to wrap it up. Now, as I always tell you guys, yes, as I wrapped up my thoughts and what was the background of how I felt when I read through some of these articles, I want to bring a scripture to your attention. Now, listen, no, there's no cult or recruitment going on. I just love to do this, kind of something to give an idea of where my thoughts go. Now, guys, let's jump over here really shortly in Second Peter. I won't read all of this, but I'm just going to hit the highlights. Because in Second Peter 2 and the long verse, you can go through several passages. It's like 22 verses. But I want to point out something that kind of jumps out at me when I was saying to you guys that these battles, it's not that they're going to get to a conclusion. You know, there's not going to be this great day where someone goes, oh, okay, we're done. No more. We're not going to be picking on people anymore. We're going to stop that. We're not going to be attacking people anymore. We're done with that. Unfortunately, that's not the universe we're residing in. So I want to bring you a couple of little tips and tidbits from Second Peter. And here's what was happening. You know, they were delivering letters to various churches to kind of give them some ideas on things they might come up against and tips on how to try to keep themselves functioning. And in Second Peter, he begins with saying, but false prophets also arose among the people. False prophets, key words. Just as there will be false teachers among you. Again, key word, false teachers. And they will secretly bring in destructive heresies. They'll even deny the master who bought them, bringing upon themselves swift destruction, and many will follow their sensuality, and because of them, the way of truth will be blasphemed. I love that verse really kind of brings to mind for me people being in and around you doing destructive things, basically telling lies or bending the truth in a way that gives false representations. And as we can follow on, and in their greed, they will exploit you with false words. Their condemnation for long ago is not idle, and their destruction is not asleep. For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them to the chains of gloom and darkness to be kept until the judgment, if he did not spare the ancient world, but only Noah, a herald of righteousness with 7 others, when the flood was upon the world of the ungodly. In my thought process, the warning is, if you're doing these type of things and you think you're going to be spared the wrath that can come from it, rather the result of what your destruction is causing, if you think you're going to be spared, you are mistaken. So I just like to comfort myself in that type of thought process and in these type of scripture when this type of event is ongoing, because I believe it may take time. Of course, today things move fast, But I believe we are going to see a wrathful result, perhaps among the people who are orchestrating this type of pain and confusion, and the people whom this nonsense will touch. And I believe that they are going to pay a very heavy price because there was no reason for this. If you were in total disagreement of how things were operating, if you didn't like the way this charity was moving, you know, why didn't you start your own? That is going to be the number one question. And why, if you started your own charity, did you not operate in the manner that you prefer to operate in? And I think that is where this story is going to come apart, because you were only there for a couple of years and nothing has happened but destruction. So, folks, I want to leave you with that thought, and I want to thank you all again. Thank you all again so much for sharing your time and spending time here with me, joining in the chat. I love your comments. It's wonderful to read what you all think. I think it's fantastic. I have a few more that are here. Uh-oh. Folks that have come up a little bit later, but let me see what else I have. I see a few names that I hadn't seen before I go. We'll close out with a couple. Dolores Williams is asking, where's the money she has gotten for the charity? That's going to be a good... Excuse me, I'm sneezing. That's going to be a good question. That's going to be a good question, right? Because money, you're going to follow the money. And eventually, all these things are going to come into vision. So I really am so glad that you guys were here to share with me. And now that I'm sneezing again and coughing again, I think I better make a run, make a run for it, and show you guys how much I am grateful that you're here. So we're going to give ourselves a wonderful round of applause as we head out. And remember, we are all under the prayers of our mothers. That is for sure.